Tell me what I can help with in terms of chatting when we're doing our video here. What are you looking for? Give me
honestly, man, this was one post that really stuck out to me that ignited the idea. Like, hey, I got to sit down with him and have him share in deeper detail what he means by this. And it was All right, what's going on, everybody? Samir Chibane here. Welcome on over to Secure the Bag podcast. And today I have a very, very special guest that not only am I excited to introduce to you guys, but I'm also excited to be able to sit down with him and really absorb, some knowledge and some, great ideas that he's going to share with us here today. And who I'm talking about is Mr. David Ferris right here.
Very nice to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Yes, we're here at Ferris Capital, Marlborough, Massachusetts, and randomly got introduced to Mr. Ferris by my boy Juan Valdez. And he told me, dude, you gotta check this guy out. He's an absolute killer, absolute beast, and has really, created some magnificent companies and some magnificent results for himself and his family, obviously. So I reached out to him when I got here to visit some family, and I also have a project that I'm working on out here. But luckily, I was able to set up an appointment with him, and here we are again at Ferris Capital. So I want to give a quick little introduction.
Sure.
Okay? I did my research, man.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
By the way, for those of you guys that are either tuning on the podcast, iTunes, whatever it is, or you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure leave a thumbs up. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the channel. This is going to be one of the many groundbreaking interviews that we do here on this podcast. So be sure to stay tuned and keep up to date. And so let me give you guys, all right, let me give you a quick introduction about Mr. Ferris himself. So originally, he's gonna clarify if I by any means don't put it right, but he was average high school student. C student.
Dyslexic, special ed.
Got it. Special ed.
They
labeled you as that.
Yeah, absolutely labeled as special ed.
Got it. And then you went on to college, I believe. Not the best college, but...
Marist College for a year.
Got it. For
Played
1 year.
Soccer 1 year. Got straight A's and then transferred to BC.
Got it.
Only two kids out of my class went to Boston College, our valedictorian and the one behind the valedictorian.
And what high school were we going?
That was Algonquin Regional High School.
Got it. Okay.
Public high school.
Public high school.
Right.
So 1 year in college and then you dropped out?
No, and then I went to Boston College and I finished BC. And then I went to law school, Loyola, New Orleans.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then eventually, now this is what I do, and eventually you took a chance in life and you drove out to New York to meet...
one interview with Matt Gorman.
Yes.
Right. So I was not a business student, I was a law student.
Got it.
So, the perception would be, well, why would you be driving to Wall Street and go work with numbers for your whole life?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Contradictive a little bit, but...
Hit it off with this guy, he cut me a break.
Got it. He gave you that shot. And essentially...
Got 1 of 12 spots out of...
1 of 12
out of a couple thousands. Yep.
Nice, amazing. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then eventually you got into or you were managing investments right at that company that you got the shot at.
Yep.
And at
cold calling, getting new clients.
Cold calling, that is something
high net worth individuals. Yep.
Very high net worth individuals.
That's right.
Of course, people that they gotta have money for you to invest, right?
That's right.
And eventually, when the market crashed, 2008, 2009, I believe you got into redeveloping, outdated office spaces.
Right. This building is one example.
This building is one of them.
Yeah, $20 million building that we bought for about $3 million in the credit crisis.
Wow. Got it. Okay. And then you were in that game for I believe a couple of years until 2012 or so.
That's right.
And then you got into now you went from, and this is another topic that I'm excited to talk about. You went from an earner, in the sense that you were an earner as a
making $1 million, $1.5 million a year, just as a salaried employee for a big Wall Street firm at the time. But back in 2012, when I finished at Merrill Lynch, to an owner, meaning starting my own investment firm. So now I own the firm, and I'm building my wealth through owning an enterprise that's going up in value as opposed to making income from it. But I'm not collecting a paycheck per se from a big independent investment firm.
Got it.
Right.
Now, if we think about it, right, what
Right.
we just did it, there is we just kind of did like 10,000 bird's eye view of your journey so far, right?
Right.
I know you're nowhere near done. If you guys get the chance to meet Mr. Ferris, you'll know, or you'll feel the energy, right? This guy's just getting started right here.
Right.
So, what we just did there is pretty much broke it into little chapters of your life there, right?
Right.
And essentially, to get from one phase to the other, or one kind of game to the other.
That's right.
You say this really interesting thing on one of your Instagram posts that again made me want to set up this podcast right here. And so you talk about reinventing yourself to move from that one phase to the other, one game to the other.
Right.
So unless you really want to clarify on something that
Yeah,
I might have missed.
so I think the big thing is really it's all about society and putting labels on people and individuals and who you are and what you can be. And I think the biggest piece of advice I could give to people who want to break out of that day-to-day drudgery of going to work for a particular job is to remember one thing: you can be anything you want. And the reality is the labels society puts because of your degree or because of your job title or because of your role or because of your socioeconomic background about what you can be and who you can be is what holds a lot of people back. And I say that because I think of that day that I drove down to New York with a law degree in hand from a mid-tier law school.
Yeah.
I was a mid-level lawyer, like coming out of law school. I hadn't even taken the bar yet. And I'm driving to one of the most white shoe Wall Street firms in the world, right? One of the most powerful investment banks. I'm going up to the 26th floor, and I'm competing with the very best from the Ivy League business school candidates that they can draw from. Now, when I got in that elevator, I remembered one thing that was the most important thing, which is I belonged there and I wanted it worse than everybody else, right? I was determined, no matter what, to get this opportunity and to convince the person that I was meeting with that I had the capability set. And so they made one bet in that class. Out of 12 guys, they picked one lawyer. The other guys all had business degrees, and some also had law degrees, right? So I was the only non-business student accepted into this program, and in large part it came down to one interview and one guy giving me a shot. Now, when you get your shot in life, and it'll happen, it happens to all of us if you follow some basic principles in terms of getting out and getting in the way of people's problems and helping them solve those problems. It doesn't happen through sending texts. It doesn't happen through sending DMs. It doesn't happen through sending emails. You got to get out there and get in front of key people and talk to people. And you got to develop relationships and rapport with people who are in positions of authority, who ultimately can get to know you and trust you and give you that shot. Now, when Matt Gorman gave me that shot.
What I want to touch on that idea right there, that because I literally felt when you were just saying when you were in the elevator and you realized that you had that you were going to go in there with absolute conviction, absolute belief,
right?
And that concept right there is something that I learned from this book called Think and Grow Rich,
right?
Which is faith and again absolute conviction that you got this in the bag,
right? Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people try to really put that faith on external type of things, right? Like a diploma. So people believe more in their diplomas than they believe in themselves and their abilities and their hidden power, right? Their inner ability.
Right.
And so I think I can really relate to you on that end. That hey, like you see all these people, they can have not only just a diploma, they can have the sickest. They come from the biggest family with all that good stuff, and I'm like, hey, head to head, like my conviction is going to be stronger than the opposition.
I don't care if you wear a Starbucks uniform, at night, but during the day you can put on a sports blazer and you can go out and communicate and sell products or ideas or concepts to people. And the reality is most people have to be an earner at some point in their life, and an earner pays your day-to-day bills, and that's a day-to-day drudgery type of job. But eventually transitioning to the owner phase is what really generates huge wealth for people. Starting your own business, starting your side gig, and it could be anything from building products to being a engineer to being a developer. It could be a number of different things. It's all about what your core ability and talents are. It could be sales.
Yeah.
I mean, it just completely depends.
Now, would you say that was your first form really of reinventing yourself, because coming from such a background where
I reinvented myself really when you think of it coming out of high school, right?
Yeah.
So think of a guy who sat with his guidance counselor and she said, "You really aren't college material, David. You probably should be an auto mechanic. You're really good with your hands.
Yeah.
You're not very good academically. I don't think you're going to get into a college. If you're going to get into a college, you're going to go to a junior college." Now, what happened? I got a shot. You know who the shot was with? Harry Wood, the admissions director of Marist College, who my mom insisted I go meet at a hotel near me that was doing like a brocha.
Yeah.
So I meet with Harry. I said, "Harry, I don't really want to go here, but you're a great guy. I play soccer. I'm pretty good at that." He says, "We got a great learning disabled program. I know you've done poorly academically, but you should come to our college. I like you. You're the kind of energy we want in our school."
Wow.
So he accepted me, even though I had way below grades, very poor test scores.
Wow.
And he gave me a shot in that 4-year school. And when I got that shot, what I did was I knuckled down. I got straight A's, and I believe I'm capable. And I did everything in my power to get straight A's for one reason. I knew if I got straight A's, I could transfer into Boston College, one of the premier schools in the country. And that's what I did. I got into BC through transferring. Again, I got on the bus the first day at BC, and our class president of high school saw me and he said, "David, is that you?" And I said, "Yeah, it's me." And he said, "What are you doing on the bus?" And I said, "I'm riding the bus." And he said, "This isn't the public bus, this is the Boston College bus." I said, "Lad," I said, "I know it's the Boston College bus." I said, "I go here now." He said, "You go here? How did you get in?" I said, "Lad, through the front door like everybody else."
Yeah.
My point is, Lad had labeled me an underperformer and didn't believe I belonged at BC.
Exactly.
And the society that we live in every day is going to do that with various people in your life.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is break the mold and believe in yourself and take the shots. And then when you get the shot from whoever gives it to you, Harry Wood gave it to me to get into Marist.
Yeah.
Right? James Gorman gave it to me. Matt Gorman gave it to me at DLJ. And ultimately, what did I do for both of those people? I delivered on their belief in me, right? So Harry believed I could perform. I got straight A's, right? So when I went into that 12-person training program, and I sat down the first day, and I saw all these Ivy League students sitting there, I realized I got to work harder than everyone in this room to even keep up with these people.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, in that 2-year training program, I raised more money, I had more clients, more assets under management than the other 11 people in the program, right? 2 years later. So what did that empower me to do? It empowered me to market myself yet to another firm to get an even better position.
So it sounds like you're just kind of taking one success
and moving it on to the next.
Moving it on forward, carrying that momentum over.
And the big thing is in terms of transformation is I went from a perception in my professors, my students, to being a poor, underperforming academic student to a straight A one, right? So that was one. The other one is I got out of law school with a law degree as a middle-level law student from a middle-level law school, but I put my suit on and I believed, driving all the way from Boston to New York, that I was going to get this opportunity and I was going to leave the room with the job opportunity. But by the time I got in my car, it was halfway home, they had called me and given me the offer.
Wow.
So the reality is like a lawyer wouldn't normally get that shot. But it's all about reinventing yourself and not letting that degree or that job title or what those society friends of yours, family members, you can't do it. Yeah, great example is this building we're sitting in.
Yeah.
If I told you how many people in the middle of the credit crisis, money was hemorrhaging, the markets were bleeding.
Yeah.
I said, I found this amazing building I can buy for about $3 million. The state of Massachusetts is auctioning off an insurance company's headquarters for pennies on the dollar. Everyone said, you shouldn't buy that. Everything's moving online. Nobody wants office buildings anymore. Nobody's going to work in an office. Everyone's going to work from home because of bandwidth. You're crazy to buy it. You're going to go bankrupt. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I took a shot, and I reinvented myself from being an asset manager to a real estate investor. right? And so this is a major transformation mentally from being a guy who counseled at the time 65 families wealth, to a guy who's going to start this really serious real estate company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which started Ferris Development.
So did it start with this building right here?
It did, in the sense that on the commercial side, I had been buying residential properties and successfully, starting small. You got to get your feet wet, right? It did. I didn't wake up one day and buy an office building. It was steps, incremental steps. Buying one building, one house, converting it, buying one 2-family, buying another 2-family, doing a dozen of those types of deals.
I do want to clarify on that, because I feel like this is something really that I want to make sure on, especially throughout my content, is I clarify, especially interviewing somebody like yours, because the people that are watching this on the other end of the screen or on the podcast, I don't want them to, really take it as, you went from here to, from level 1, 2, 3 to like level 100.
It's 1,000 small steps.
Exactly.
And the key is, in those 1,000 small steps, remembering every 3rd to 8th step in that 1,000-step journey, you have major self-doubt.
Yeah.
And so again, that societal pressure around you saying you can't do it, you won't be successful, you don't belong here, you're not capable.
Yeah.
You have to have that conviction, even when self-doubt is highest. So one of the things I always say to people is the journey to success is really littered with a lot of self-doubt. There's many times you wake up in the middle of the night. I remember this building, I owned it for about 11 months. And it was fully vacant.
Yeah.
And we'd moved out all the old computers. Yeah. And in that process, one guy accidentally unplugged the energy management system. So I got my electric bill that month, and it was normally like $3,000 to $5,000 because there was no tenants in the building. And there's the carry, the mortgage, it's $20,000 a month. Long story short, I got a $26,000 electric bill.
God.
Now I'm at month 11, I've got not one tenant in the building yet. Yeah. And I've got all these naysayers telling me, you're never gonna rent that thing, the economy's shit, blah, blah, blah. The reality is, I woke up in my flannel pajamas, I walked up my driveway with no shirt on in the middle of February. And I literally remember being.
By the way, if February in Boston, everybody, is not
cold, very cold, lots of snow, in slippers. Yeah. I get to the top of my driveway, about 700 feet. And I remember literally pulling on my hair and saying, "Jesus Christ!" At the time, you had more money than 99% of the world, which to me was like $5 million, right? Like it wasn't a ton of money, but it was it was earnings that I had accumulated, right? And now, for the first time, I had so serious self-doubt, because I started looking. I said, "Holy shit! This month carrying the building was like $60,000." Yeah. Right, because of one mistake one person made, and my self-doubt was at the highest point I'd ever had in real estate. And my point in the story is, it was probably 60 days later. So it's a couple more steps in the journey to success, and that couple months later, I landed this huge tenant that's right across the hall, Davis Company.
Till this day.
Yeah. How did it happen? It happened not through email. It happened through going to a picnic, meeting with a key employee, because I heard they were looking for office space. Getting in my car, driving to somebody's house, sitting out back at a picnic table, telling an employee, "I've got an amazing building."
Face
to face. Please. And I did? I took out my wallet. I handed her the building access card, just like this. And I said, "You've got to just see this building." I said, I've got to tell you, it's incredible. I'll give you access to the whole thing, day or night. Please just go look at the building. Yeah. And she did. And I said, "I promise you, I'll cut the rent by like 30 or 40% of what you're paying." Sure enough, she got the CEO to then meet with me the following Monday. He made a deal with me a mile up the road at a local restaurant on the back of a napkin, and there led to a contract for a couple $1 million of rent over, like 8 years. From getting in a car and driving out back. Again, that face to face. The shortcut to success is really all about people, and it's about relationships, and it's about treating people like human beings rather than ATMs. Generationally, there's this issue with people. And it's all about, I want to make a withdrawal in the relationship. Yeah. And what you've got to be willing to do is make a ton of deposits in your life. So when somebody reaches out for your help, somebody asks for some need that they have, and you give them your time, that's called making a deposit. Yeah. And if you make enough deposits in your social network, when you need to make a withdrawal, so I needed a withdrawal. When that was? When I needed a reference in terms of who is this guy, Dave Ferris? Will he build my office space out? You know what? I had a plethora of people I could put that CEO on the phone with who said, this is a great guy. He's integrity based. He'll deliver on what he says. So this idea that you never want to treat people, your family, your friends, your business associates, like ATMs, right? You want to make lots of goodwill deposits.
Want to give.
You'll never worry about a withdrawal if you do.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, one thing that I also want to really clarify on, because this is something that is huge when you're down, when you're not really, quote unquote, winning, right? It's so obviously not a lot of people are going to believe in you because you're not winning. Now, that's the point, though. It sounds like when you got to believe in yourself, the absolute most, because when you're winning, like I'm sure, in the position that you are in today with, the lifestyle that you have and whatnot, all the things that you worked really hard for, so easy for people to clap for you and, say, wow.
Nobody sees the setbacks.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody knows about the failures, because we all hide our failures, right?
The walks to the driveways when you're pulling your hair
That's
out.
right. No people would see me in my flannel pajamas at 2 a.m. pulling out my hair at the top of the driveway saying, oh shit, I screwed up. Yeah. Right? But there's a lot of those along the way.
Absolutely.
So when I started this investment firm, right? So I was at Merrill Lynch, I had 65 clients, 174 million under management. Everybody said, you're crazy, your clients aren't going to come with you. You shouldn't do that. But I had already started this real estate thing. So anyway, I left there, and within 1 year, 64 out of 65 of the clients came. So we had a good base of 175. So that was just about 5 years ago. And now we're pushing up towards 700 million.
750.
Right?
How much pressure are you on constantly? Is that a lot of pressure you're under, or do you have it totally under control all the time?
Well, like going back to that concept of don't treat people like ATMs. In business, and in my role, what that means is make your employees, the people who you trust and work with the most, feel and know that they're on your team, and your leadership will always guide them to excellence. And really leading by example. And my point is if you really give back to those employees and make them part of the success, they all have that common vision. And so I think from me, killing myself, it's really not about me, it's really all about them. They are what make me and us as an organization successful.
Gotcha, absolutely. Now, one thing that I want to go back to, there's a lot of things that I want to
Sure.
I feel like that's something I say often, but one concept that I want you to clarify on is this whole, because in the generation that we live in today, right? It's all about social media, it's all about the internet, and I'm a big believer, obviously, that when such advantages come, they also bring some disadvantages, or some to every pro.
And my advice on this is this: dare and be willing to do the unusual and be different. Right? And so social media is a very powerful tool. It has its place in all types of business and personal relationships. But as you just said, this generation is, for lack of a better term, hooked on it, or it's a major ingredient or part of their life. And in all due respect, it gives a lot of benefit and pleasure and human interaction. But what I would challenge today's generation to do is think of the basics. Think about the connectivity you have in your home, with your loved ones. It's all about human face-to-face connectivity. And that is now the utilized asset that people don't realize the power.
That's what the power is. Exactly.
It's like yesterday you were a name, today you're a class act, a guy who I respect, and now I have a connectivity with that could pick up the phone and call me day or night. Right? And the reality is you don't get that through online connectivity. You get that through this. Right? And being willing to do the unusual. So I think about one of my biggest clients, even to this day, not our biggest, but still a very big client, and being a young guy in a big Wall Street trading floor, right? And getting on a plane last minute, going down to Brooks Brothers, buying a new suit, buying a whole bunch of new clothes to fly out last minute to meet a really big titan in business, CEO, who was racing his car in Las Vegas. And so I went out to meet him at this big owner's invitational, And I get to Las Vegas on a whim. I spent, Wall Street firms wouldn't reimburse you for any of that. So I buy a last minute ticket, a lot of money at the time. I buy, $3,000 or $4,000 in new clothes, a ton of money back in the day.
Yeah.
And, I get to Las Vegas, I'm there at the baggage carousel, right? None of it shows up. So I'm in my jeans, right? I've got no clothes. I got to meet this huge guy in the next day or two for this 4-day conference. I've spent, $7,000 to get there, right? And think about the level of depression I had, right?
Yeah.
Like my bag was stolen in Miami, connection, right? Never got it back.
Yeah.
In any event, so I got to walk down the Vegas Strip, find clothes to go meet this guy potentially the next day or two. I tried to meet up with this guy probably 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
I finally ran into him in one of the things.
Yeah.
And had a 30-minute discussion with him. And I thought to myself, God, I just flew out here, spent all that money to spend 30 minutes with this guy. He's never going to move his money, over to me, right? Now, here's the story. So I came home, I was super upset. I think I was actually in tears with my wife at the time saying, I can't even believe I just pissed away all this money and did this. It was a huge setback, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward a couple weeks later, this guy is coming out to Boston, I find out. And I said, hey, why don't you, you have the same car as me, a Viper, why don't you use mine to go to Martha's Vineyard?
Yeah.
You're going over to the vineyard, it'd be cool to, race around the island on mine. I'll set it all up for you, I'll put my car in a ferry for you.
Here's the giving part, right?
This is all about a goodwill deposit,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
I like the guy, he was a cool guy, and I'd only met him for 30 minutes. That goodwill deposit created a friendship and a bond of trust between the two of us. 6 months later, I was advising him on selling $150 million of his concentrated stock that at the time was trading at $68 a share. We took $75 million in our firm and managed it. 75 went to another firm. I set up a major foundation for him for $40 million. So he became my biggest client.
Yeah.
And the reality is that all happened being willing to do something that was super uncomfortable. Who would get up on a Wall Street trading desk, fly out to the other side of the country, get dressed? I didn't even have a ticket to get into the event. It had been sold out for 6 months.
Yeah.
I called in favor, chip after chip, just to get a visitor pass to go into this thing.
Yeah.
Right? And the feeling in the setback of failure and self-doubt occurred on the whole flight home. Days and weeks after, I scratched my head and I said, why did I do that? Right? But ultimately, that willingness to get out of my comfort zone and to be something that I believed I could be, and taking that shot, right, led to the opportunity, and then making the goodwill deposit, right? Not calling on him and saying, hey, can I see your portfolio? Give me a copy of your statement. Now, here's the punchline. 2 years later, that company went bankrupt.
Wow.
We dumped all that stock, $150 million. How do you think that bonded he and I together, right? So I intersected in his life at the most opportune time to give him the courage and the knowledge and the facts to help him, force him off the edge to sell this huge block of stock that led to him owning this massive, estate. Yeah. And I remember we went car race a couple years later, and the sun was setting. We were out in the desert in Las Vegas, and we'd taken his Citation 10, one of the fastest commercial planes in the world, from California down into the desert. We raced all day. We were still in our car suits. We get out at the airstrip. The cars are running. We're right by the wing, and the sun's setting. And I said to him, Dave, look at this. It doesn't get any better than this. Now, I'm like a 33-year-old kid at the time. And he said, we did this together. Yeah. And to this day, that's the biggest compliment I've ever had, serving other people. And the reality is you've got to want whatever you're doing in life, you've got to believe in it, and you've got to want to help people solve problems. And that's really what it's all about. I don't care if you're an engineer building, a customer an app, or you're a sales guy, selling someone, some sort of product that you've designed. But you've got to believe in the product. And I always say this about selling and salespeople in general. Salespeople are born, not made. Yeah. So you've got salespeople got to believe in what they're selling.
Absolutely.
Or you'll never sell.
If there's no conviction, the other person on the other end of the table will smell it.
Right.
If you're not convicted on your own product, on your own service that you're providing, then why would they be convicted on it enough to give you money?
That's 100% right.
One story that I can really relate to you with is the day that I was driving across the country from Boston. It was like beautiful summer day. It was like May 15th. I'll never forget it. And I was outside. I was loading up my bags. My buddy Zane, he pulls up. He had this like gray Mercedes-Benz, like a C300 that we were doubtful it was even going to get us across the country.
Right.
But we were doing door-to-door sales for a little while, so we became really good friends, and we got this opportunity to become part of a startup, solar company, like renewable energy company. And so it came with some benefits. One of them being, hey, you get to move out to California. We'll help you with rent for like a month or two to get on your feet.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Absolutely. Because here I am, college dropout. And I dropped out of college to get into door-to-door sales. So I'm like, hey, either I'm making this thing work, or I gotta figure something out. And so I'm loading up my bags. My mom is like, looking at me from the front door as I'm like getting ready, and I can see her tearing up, and I'm like, dude, I gotta make this work 1,000%. I'm not coming back home to face I'm not putting my mom through this pain right here and coming back home
without getting it done.
Without getting it done. Yeah.
And
so the whole time I'm driving, it was like 6 days. We went to Chicago, then to Denver, then finally, and I'm sitting there the whole ride down, and I'm like, the fact that I'm taking this big of a risk really, really shows how much conviction that I have in myself to be able to.
And you got out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Not only that, I mean, if
and you had major periods of self-doubt.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole drive there really was like.
Think about that flight home from Vegas. How I felt. Just my baggage got stolen.
Exactly.
I met the guy for 28 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, what did I achieve? In my mind, I believed I achieved nothing.
Yeah.
Because we are programmed societally to believe instantaneous success and results occur the moment we put action into motion. It's not the way it works. It's like a fuse, but you just don't know how long the cord is.
Yeah.
And so what you gotta do is just keep lighting the fuses. And then different success bombs go off.
Absolutely.
And cutting the line to success is all about mentors and people who will believe in you and following the footsteps of others. So when people ask me, how did you figure some of this stuff out? I didn't, right? I had wonderful mentors. That man I just discussed was one of them. But, I've been in a unique position in the sense that those 130 men and women who have been entrepreneurs or extremely successful technologists who have made this, major wealth creation, they've shared with me their tools to success, right? And what those really are is their failures and mistakes that they made, and that's what we call life experience. So experience really is nothing more than a word for a failure that you learn from. It's, Jesus, I'll never do that again. And a really common thing, I think.
And on the flip side too is, Jesus, I'll do that again and again and
that's
again.
Right. Oh, that really worked. Hey, that's a positive experience.
Yeah.
But the reality is all too often people use this, what I consider go-it-alone strategy, right? Like, I got this, this isn't going to be a problem. That doesn't look too complicated. Rather than reaching out to that senior person who's been in that role, and it could be someone who's going to become, I want to be a real estate broker in LA.
Yeah.
I'm going to go take the test, I'm going to go knock on doors and figure it out, as opposed to saying, I'm going to find a way to get in front of the top 15 real estate brokers. I'm going to make them cookies. I'm going to, leave them a gift card. I'm going to buy them a model of their favorite sports car. I think of this, this jacket I'm wearing, and the kid that hustled me on in the North End, and he's one more clothier, right? Yeah. He had the courage to walk up to me at the bar and say, "Is that your Lamborghini out front?" I said, "Yeah, it is." He said, "Man, I love that car. I've always wanted one. Hey, by the way, who makes your clothes?" I said, I use Tom James, I use Jay Hilburn, I've got people, I'm all set. And he's like, let me just give you my card, can you just give me your name, I'd love to stay in touch. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to be called by another clothier, right? He called and called and called, he never got a meeting. And then he did something unique. He got out of his comfort zone, he thought creatively, and he did something no other clothier ever did. And what did he do? He sent me a model of my of my car, of my Lamborghini, same color, same make, with a personal note I really enjoyed meeting you. I'd love to just get 10 minutes. If I could just get a shot to share with you how I could make your clothing experience better, I'd appreciate it. You want to know something? I bought a shitload of clothes from that.
Yeah.
Right?
For all in result of him stepping out of his comfort zone. And
Think about walking up to a guy sitting at a bar with his friends having a drink and introducing himself and saying, I love your car, I just wanted to meet you, right? There's a lot of people who don't have the courage to do that. But here's the thing that a lot of people forget. Here's another key thing. You know, and this goes to the whole thing, like society's labeled you as a Starbucks rep.
Yeah.
You're a Starbucks rep while you're standing behind that counter.
Yeah.
When you leave that job, you're anything that your opportunity set will allow you to do and be. And my point is you know, with guys like that are willing to get out of their comfort zone and get in front of key people, what they're remembering is a very basic thing, which is, you know what we all do in the morning? We all put our pants on one leg at a time. Yeah. And, you know, I'm no different than anybody else, right? I breathe oxygen like all of us. Yeah. And that goes to this whole idea of approachability of people and developing a human connection and believing that a CEO or a janitor should be treated with the same level of respect and dignity. And you are no better nor no worse than anyone else. Yeah. And so you are by right and by birth entitled to reach out to those people to help make their life better and your life better.
It's your responsibility.
You've got to create the opportunity.
Yeah, if you have such a good product, and this is something that I had to realize in my door-to-door sales career, because I was struggling for a while. Like after getting out there to California, 2.5 months, me and my business partner were like, dude, what the F are we doing out here? We're like, it's like 90 degrees. We're in this
melting
and melting outside. We're sweating. We're like knocking on people's doors. At one point, we're like, hey, just give us some water, please, you know? Yes. And I'll let you go here. And you know, as things started working out and whatnot, it really made me realize that, you know, it really made me realize that by taking that risk, right? By taking that risk of, you know, driving out, eliminating that self-doubt, you know, instilling absolute conviction, is the, you know, it's the recipe, right? But you
being willing to, this is another thing that many people, we're trained, we're programmed to not want or to avoid rejection. Yeah. And you will never be successful in anything in life until you accept rejection and learn to realize you are going to get no, yes. No, maybe. The point is being willing to do things that are uncomfortable, to accept rejection and move forward and realize it's a numbers game. You're going to have to make the calls. You're going to have to get in front of people.
And the no's are part of the yeses.
That's right. Eventually you get the maybe.
Yeah.
You know, you get the shot.
Yeah.
What you do with it after that is all about you. The other thing that I noticed too is, and this goes to a lot of people and a lot of businesses, you know, one of the big mistakes people make is they believe cold calling is about selling on the phone. Mm-hmm. You never pick up the phone to make a cold call. You make a warm call. What a warm call is, you know who your audience is, you know what their problem is, you have a product or a service that you know somehow can enhance and enrich their life. Your goal on that call is never to sell them. Never. You have one goal. You know what that goal is? That goal is to get an in-person, face-to-face meeting.
Exactly.
And as soon as you get it, you know what you do? You hold your lips, you say, I'll see you Friday at 8. Thanks so much. Hang up that phone. It's all about getting the meeting, getting in front of people, getting in the way of commerce, right? Yeah. When you're out there talking to people, you're hearing about their problems, you're hearing about their concerns, you're hearing about their needs, you're hearing about their wants, and you're getting an opportunity to do something with it, to go back to the home office, to go back to your peers, colleagues, people you respect, to help create value to that person. Now, you might not be even selling them anything. You might just be helping them solve a problem. And guess what? What have you done? You've made a goodwill deposit. And if you make enough of those, whenever you want to make a withdrawal, you'll never have to worry about your balance. That's right.
They'll pick up that phone.
That's
honestly, like, you know, this conversation right here, and it could be like literally a whole day worth of content. We could keep going back and forth, especially on the idea of, you know, we live in such a digital age that human interaction is so valuable to the customer nowadays.
Correct.
It's like, wow, it's like, oh my God, I'm talking to a person.
Right.
I'm not chatting to a bot. I'm not responding to an email. Holy cow, this company actually cares. They actually service their customers, and they actually pick up the phone and talk.
And by the way, here's a basic in business. If you haven't figured this part out, we're all human beings. We're all programmed a certain way.
Yeah.
And by that I mean this. You know when I got my best new client opportunities? On Fridays. So you ask me, well, why would it be Fridays and why wouldn't it be Mondays? You know why? Today's Friday. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get in that black Lamborghini, I'm going to rip down to Newbury Street, have lunch with one of my really good friends. Yes. I'm in a great mood, right?
Yeah.
Monday it's sort of like, oh fuck, I got to do this.
What better way to connect at that point in time?
So, someone gets me, gets around my assistant, guess what? She's out today.
Yeah.
What do you think the best time to get a hold of someone? It's right after hours when the assistant's gone, right? Dial in by name till you get to that. See, hey, John, I know it's Friday, I know it's late.
Yeah.
Can I come by the office on next Wednesday? I just got to tell you about something that I'm working on. I know you're super busy. I super appreciate it. By the way, I know we share these common friends.
Yeah.
Use the online media and the social networking tools to see the branch of relationships, as you did, and how you reached out to me, right? As the opportunity to get in front of the person, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be LinkedIn, could be Instagram, could be whatever, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's people, people are literally, especially the way that a lot of really upbringings, I guess that doesn't make too much sense, but the way that people are conditioned growing up. I for sure the way that I was conditioned growing up is, hey, don't talk to strangers, don't bother people, don't be pushy,
right? And
all these things that they try to associate with.
That's right, and that's what we were just saying in terms of breaking out of and reinventing who you are. And it's so easy to say, well, you can be anything you want to be. That's not what it means. What it means is you are programmed societally to believe in the title or the background that you came in and the capability set that you have. And that's what you should be, or that's what you could be. I think of a friend of mine who went to nursing school and realized when she got into being the nursing world, like, I don't really like this. And I said to them, why the hell you're 23. Here's another big piece of advice to your audience, and this is so key. When you're young, you have so many opportunities to fail. Yes. And the path to success is littered with multiple failures along the way.
Yeah.
And what you don't want to do is be an earner all the way through your life. Eventually you want to own. You want to own your own, design company, you want to own your own catering company, you want to own your own widget manufacturer or your own, law firm or whatever you want to own. But my point is, you have to have earnings along the way to pay your bills. That's your day job.
Yeah.
Your night job is focusing on that thing you're passionate about,
exactly.
And the dream and the belief that you're going to do it. And the time to do that is when you're young and you don't have children and responsibilities, because you can take more risk. What happens? I would have loved to have gone to Harvard Business School. You know what happened? I got addicted to the money, right? Like, so I started making $1 million, $1.5 million a year. I'm young. I remember the month I got married, I was 31 years old. I went down to Panama, and we were going out to my bachelor party, van load of guys, stag party, and and I stopped at the ATM to get some money, and I pulled it out, and I had like $460,000 deposited for my monthly paycheck. I made like $900,000 that month. 959,000, something like that. And I was days away from getting married, and I was like 31, and I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, this is like really cool. But what it didn't do, that money never changed a moment in terms of the interaction and how I felt about myself, how I felt about my wife, and getting married, and realizing that the path to excellence is really all about choices. And making good choices is something we all stumble at. And it goes back to this very basic concept. And one of the really successful men that has been a mentor to me in my life taught me this. And he said, once you realize you can have anything, you have to recognize you cannot have everything. So what does that concept mean? That means like this. I'm getting married, right? I'm making a choice. That is going to, I could have any girl probably at that point, right? But the reality is you make a choice. It's a lot like going into a menu, one of the greatest restaurants in the world, and you can buy everything on the menu. But if you eat everything on the menu, you can get anything on the menu.
Yeah.
But if you get everything on the menu and you put it in your stomach, it's a terrible experience.
Yep.
And so life is all about realizing that just because you can have anything doesn't mean you can have everything. So you have to focus, and you have to make the choice about what your passion is and what you're going to focus on, and then you have to go after it as hard as you can. And you have to realize you're going to have huge doubts and more doubts along the way, and all the people around you are going to pepper you with, that's a bad decision. Every building I bought in the credit crisis, every person who loved and cared about me, who had best intentions for me in my life, said, you probably don't want to do another one. Don't you think you got enough?
Yeah, and those are the people that are closest to us is obviously the ones that we value the most, right?
That's
we
right.
value their opinion, and especially
their counsel,
and their
trusted
validation, right?
Right, validation.
It's like
Yep.
you go up. I remember as being a little kid, and you have kids
Right.
right? Two beautiful daughters, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, three daughters and one son. 28-year-olds, a 12 and a 15-year-old.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I'm sure you remember. Your kids run up to you, and I'm running up to my mom, and I'm like, do you accept? Hey, I want to do this. Do you think that's a good idea?
Right.
And do that with my dad, with my brothers, and now you're like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and you're doing that again, and something that you're super passionate about, that you have some conviction on, but you have that 20%, you're lacking 20% of conviction that you're hoping your parents can give you.
And then often these people cannot give you that conviction or certainty, and they care about you and they have the best intentions, but they don't realize you are limitless in your success, and you can go beyond what they even know you're capable of. Yeah. Right? And that's a key thing to remember.
So what do you tell your kids? What do you make sure that, what kind of ideas are you planting in your kids?
The biggest one my dad taught me, and my daughter reminded me this the other day, which is, I failed so miserably. I mean, I repeated third grade. I was back when they had special ed, and I was severely learning disabled in the sense of dyslexic. I learned to read, I think, when I was about 11 years old, but I will bet you within 1 mile of where we sit, there is no one that can read as fast as me. So why would that happen? That happened through thousands of hours of specialization with some of the best remedial readers in the world that taught me to read straight down a page rather than left to right, right? Doing the unusual. But the thing my dad always told me, because I came home in tears over and over and over again from school when I would fail these tests. I wouldn't get like 2 questions right out of like 50 on an exam. And I always remember what my father said over and over and over again. He says, I don't care what the score is on that exam. I just want to know that you tried your best. You studied, you worked hard, you did everything you could, and that's the result, David. It's okay, right? And the reality is what that really was unconditional acceptance of me. Yeah. And that was a major ingredient to believing. Now, so here's the most interesting thing. All of that suffering, and it was very, very hard. I mean, I sat in a special ed class with Stefan Sahagan, a kid in a wheelchair with a glass eye that sat like this, right? Yeah. That guy was on my left. On my right was little Kenny. Kenny had these deformities, right? Yeah. We were lumped in with physically disabled children, right? Yeah. So, by definition, I viewed myself as flawed and different and unusual, right? But here's the beauty of it. When I think about dyslexia and I think about my children, I don't know whether I would feel as though they are blessed to be given such a disability. And I say this because once you overcome one issue that's major in your life, right? Yeah. The key throughout your life is remember, I overcame that. Exactly. Right? I couldn't read at the same age as everybody else, but you know what? After I did master reading, I believed in myself in a way that I had never believed in myself before, which is if I want something bad enough, I know that I can get it. And that runs, if you can get that early on in your life, that failure, right? Repeated failure academically, class after class being the worst performer, right? Barely getting out of high school, barely getting into a 4-year college, right? But you know what? I believed that I wanted to be somebody that my parents and that my people around me would look to as successful, right? Yeah. And the key is understanding that those failures, when they happen, feel like huge setbacks, but if you overcome the next one, it'll be amazing. Your journey will be amazing.
That's wonderful, man. That's wonderful. Mr. Ferris, David.
Super nice to meet you. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you so much, man.
It.
Honestly,
nice to meet you.
You know, this was incredible. I could have kept going all day, but you know, I'm sure he has plenty of other things to attend to. So thank you again so much
for having me. Really appreciate it. Super nice.
Always.
Quality stuff.
Now, for those of you guys that are either listening on the podcast, you're watching on YouTube, be sure, please, to not only leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the podcast and the channel, but also leave some feedback for, you know, me personally on, you know, on how I did on this interview, or if there is any other questions that you wish you'd have gotten the chance to ask Mr. Ferris. I will put his or you know, his Instagram profile. Hope you mind me sharing that. He's not. It's real interesting though. This is another thing that I want to point out. I kind of forgot. He is not the, you know, the social media guy, right? But he is the people's person, right? So he's not like totally on social media. It's not his focus as it is to, you know, a lot of us younger entrepreneurs. We feel like that's the do or die for us. But ultimately, he is the type of person, and you guys, you know, have realized this by now too. It's the idea of getting in front of people. There's nothing like that you can create. There's nothing on that level of interaction or engagement that you can create online. There's just no such thing as being able to sit face to face that you can duplicate. You know,
absolutely
online. Not a Skype call, not a FaceTime, not a live. Like, it doesn't even compare. But with that being said,
awesome.
Again, thank you so much, Mr. Ferris.
Nice to see you.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Always.